Yeah. Did you know many serving in the war? Well, I knew my brother was in the war, and then he had friends that were in the war. None of my friends, well, let's see, Farrell had a brother in the war, but we just knew of other people that were in the war. Bob had an uncle in the war that was shot and still lived after being shot. But you know, I was trying to think about somebody that didn't come back, and I can't think of anyone that I knew that didn't come back, that I really knew. Can't think of anybody. That was, that, you know. What was daily life like in your area during the war for your family? Well, everything was rationed. You got rationed, you got tickets for gasoline. You were given enough to get to and from work so many days a week. And
Vaseline?
Gasoline.
Oh, Vaseline,
was rationed.
I thought you said.
Huh?
I thought you said Vaseline.
Oh, no. Gasoline was rationed. Food was rationed. There was a lot of stuff. Sugar was rationed because we couldn't get it. So
Eggs?
eggs weren't rationed.
Huh?
Eggs were just part of the food rationing, but they weren't rationed. We had all kinds of eggs. Well, no, that's not true either. You're right. They were rationed because the troops...
On the home base, they maybe.
Pardon?
On the home base, they were.
Yeah, yeah. Because it had to feed the troops in training at first. So that's right. Everything was rationed. Everything was rationed. But we didn't go without. We had all we needed. I think it's different than some other countries where they were being bombed on a constant basis. They couldn't grow anything. So the only other person I know that served in the military was my cousin.
You have to stop him.
Right now.
Well, no.
I will.
Was a cousin who went into the Air Force for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was older than George. He was older than my brother George. So he went in for that length of time, but he was in the Air Force and always in the United States. Daily life serving, well, in Korea there was no war of any kind, and I went over assigned to an infantry company, and one day the captain had announced that they were looking for tractor operators in the post engineers. So after we had worked that day, I went into Captain, can't think of his name now. Anyway, he wasn't even a captain, he was first lieutenant. First lieutenant, he was fresh out of West Point. Anyway, so I told him I know how to drive a tractor. And he said, okay. He said, you joined up for 18 months. I said, yeah. He said, so you're not a draftee, so you're not going to be going home right away. And I said, right. He said, okay, I'll send you over there. Are you going to sign up again? Because you'll have to sign up. If you're going to be a career, the next will be 3 years. I said, no. I said, I just want to do 18 months for the schooling. He said, all right. He said, I understand, something like that. And he sent me over, so I got assigned to the post engineer department. I moved out of the infantry into a special Quonset hut. Is where we lived, in the Quonset huts. So life was kind of good. It was just like having a job, and food wasn't anything to shout about, but it was Army food. But it was, the first 3 months was a lot of Vienna sausage. And you want me to tell that story here?
No, you told it on the other one.
Oh, I did, right. Yeah, okay. Was Vienna sausage, but we eventually got some better dehydrated food. So, but it was still like, because all we did was work on the roads and make them safer and such. I'm not through yet.
There's a couple more questions.
I got a couple more questions.
What?
I wrote out all the questions. He knows what he's supposed to answer. He's doing good. I promise.
What was it like to come back to civilian life after serving in the military? You know, I didn't see any big difference. I knew that I had to get a job. And one of the reasons I knew I had to get a job, my dad said, you have to get a job. He says, I'll give you a week to fool around. And in that week of fooling around, I realized I don't want to fool around. I want to go to work. Some of my buddies, all of my buddies were working. Well, of course, 3 of them had gotten married, so they had to be working. So I went to work for a telephone company. And that's because that's where 2 of my buddies, well, one of my buddies, best buddy was Vern Higdon. He was working at a telephone company. He told me to come and go to work because I was tall and I was skinny and I was fairly strong at that point. And so I went to work for a telephone company. So I didn't monkey around much. As a lot of guys would put on, you know, they had a pin as you got out of the Army. You have a gold pin, lapel pin, and it was called a ruptured duck because it was a duck, wounded duck, meaning you were discharged. So I got that. I didn't ever wear that stuff, but I've kept my Army uniform and so forth. So
You still have your uniform?
I still have my uniform. Doesn't fit.
It
All
shouldn't.
this time in mothballs made it shrink around the waist.
Oh, good.
Do you want this, Katie? I want to go on so I can get through.
Okay. Some of my experiences.
We can come back and I'll do the last 3 questions after.
Well, there's not really much to say because there's nothing
Yeah.
really went on in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
We went out on one. I went out on one rice raid, and like we told the sergeant, I said, "What do I do if we see something that's wrong?" He said, "Well, just let us know." I said, "Okay." He says, "Here, carry this." I don't know how to use that thing. It was a BAR, Browning automatic rifle. How do I show? He says, "It'll scare him." I said, "Oh, you want me to carry this thing?" And he says, "Oh, we're just only going to be gone." And we were just gone just a little while. The most difficult thing about the rice raids was the women of Korea who did the farmers, all of the farmers' housing were mud houses, thatch roof. The floor was dirt. You didn't go in there with your shoes on. And that's where they would have to go. First of all, the first 3 guys, or first guys to go into the house had to take their boots off. And at first they said, no, we're going to go in, you know, and pretty soon the officers come down and said, listen, it's their house. You know, they don't have it. And we were just looking for a stockpile of rice. Well, there's no place to put it except for the rice that they had. And so our rice raids weren't anything. But there was black market working off of that area, and we squelched that by, we did. A unit of the infantry went out and shot down, cut 3 people down. And it was a group of Koreans that did the same thing to the Japanese that were there. They stole from them and put it on the black market and so forth. But we stopped, our guys stopped them. That was closest thing to any shooting that we ever had. So, oh, we were all excited one day. We saw a bunch of guys standing out, and the MPs come down and everything else. What's going on? And I thought they were having a fight. And they said, no, look at this guy. This guy had hair like this, and down his face, and it was way down here, and all he had on was just, what do you call it?
Loincloth?
Loincloth. That's about all it was. This guy was a defector from the Japanese army, and he had lived in the war in the mountains ever since the war started. And when he was first assigned there, he was from Japan, and he ran off into the hills. They never found him, and he stayed there. And then he came down when he saw something that looked different. Is when he started seeing all the trucks with the big white stars on them, and he came down to our unit. And, what?